This lesson in the biology, we are going to prepare for the STAR exam. So we are not going to go in details, but we are going to have more practice. But I will, in each slide, I'm going to focus on like the most important thing to know on the topic. So, the biological evolution is the story of the life unity and diversity, why we are different, what happened during the years that made us that different. So, the text of this one is the student knows evolutionary theory. Evolution is a scientific explanation for the unity and diversity, why we look alike and why we don't look alike. The student is expected to analyze and evaluate scientific explanation. We are going to explain why evolution is happening concerning data of sudden appearance. Some stuff evolved or transform into sudden appearance, or sometimes sequential nature of groups in a fossil record. Sometimes we study this through the fossils. So cross-curricular second language for ESL and English learners, you are expected to demonstrate comprehension of the terminology and the increasingly complex English by participating in shared reading, retelling, or summarizing material, responding to questions, taking notes, commensurate with context, area, and grade level needs. So I encourage you, if you are homeschooling, to you can work on groups. So you will be able to put everything in context, like a paragraph. So you are able to use the terminology of evolutions we need. What what we expected to learn in this chapter or in this unit? We are expected to have an introduction about evolution, the process by which living things change over time. Evolution explains how all life is connected and why there are many different species. Charles Darwin is the key scientist in this, but we will learn about more scientists who are involved in connecting all the evolution together. So, if I talk about Charles Darwin, so I will say that he was the most famous scientist who worked on evolution, and he has some theories to agree about or not to agree about. We have some tested scientists that didn't agree about his theory, but we are going to learn every one. So I will read from the history of Charles Darwin. We don't need this too much, but it's very important to know the origin of everything. So he was a gentleman from English countryside who set out on a seafaring journey on the HMS Beagle on 1831. So he was no less religious than others of his day, but he had a very active, curious mind and was acquainted with much of the scientific thinking. So he noticed something rather unique about the finch population on the Galapagos Island. This observation led to creation of two of the most important biology-related theories of all time: biological evolution and natural selection. We are going to learn about natural selection in details and biological evolution in details. So he had the birds as a tool for his study, and we will see how he did this. So two things you focus on when you study evolution: the unity, which is all living things share common features. We have common features. All the living creatures have common features, and like DNA, we all have DNA because they descend from the common ancestor, because the common ancestor has a DNA and we are inheriting DNA in ours. So we have this as a unity. Diversity, what's the difference? Over time, these living things have adapted to different environments, leading to many species. So the change in the environment, the change in weather sometimes, the change during the year, mutation, lots of things. We are going to study this, made species differently. So, for example, we will find similar bones in human, matching the whale, matching the bat limbs, matching because we still have some similarity. So you will be asked in any assessment that how the evolution happens, what the change, the diversity happens. So we have natural selection, we have variation, and we have adaptation. Those are the three things we are going to see. So natural selection, the traits that help survival become more common. For example, so changing the weather, it's getting hot or it's getting colder, or during the years there's lack of food, so adaptation happens, or some natural selection happens, means there's something happens in the nature that makes me change my habits, and I will change and then during the years ancestors or the offspring will inherit this change. Variations is a difference. Mutation happens in population. Some mutation happens in the color, some mutation happens in the shape, some mutation happens in the DNA, and this makes a different physical. Adaptation, these are the traits that help organisms survive in their environment. So we adapt according. For example, those who are living in hot weather, they have different skin color than those who are in cold weather. Though the bear who lives in snow have a very thick skin and very heavy coat of hair, different than some other creatures that are living in hot weather. So here, what's the evidence that evolution happens? First of all, fossil record is the most important thing we used in the history of. We see the fossil, we study the rock layers so we can know the bones and the shape of the bones and the tissue, and we even can analyze the DNA from the residues on the fossil records. Also, we have a comparative anatomy. We have a diagram of homologous bones in different animals. If you see here in the photo, this is the human hand, this is the dog, and this is the bird, and this is the whale. As you see here, there's lots of similarity. There are some difference in some digits, but this comparative anatomy gives me diagram how I can study how it began and how it's now. From the fossils and the comparative anatomy, I can put a diagram of the ancestors. Also, embryology, the image of the embryo from different species at early stage. If you study how the embryo shapes during the stages of different species, at some point you will find some embryos so similar to the point that you cannot make a difference. And then at the end stage of pregnancy, you can see that the changes form. So studying this will help me understand the evolution or have an evidence that this change is happening. Also, I can use molecular biology, the DNA. I can study the DNA, and they are studying in the lab the DNA. Is a DNA, as you know, the DNA is double helix. As you see in these pictures, it's double. RNA is one. It's only one strand. So this is studying this genes and studying this all double helix DNA. I can compare. I can take DNA from different species and I can see what's the difference in the molecular biology. Also, fastigial structures. Fastigials means a picture of uh, some structures, some organs that are no longer used. For example, human has still a tailbone which is not used. Vestigial means we stopped using it. It's not developing. but it's still used in the whale pelvis. It resembles the same human tailbone, but in the whale it's still used. So studying the vestigial structures that are present in some species in comparison helps me to see evolution. So these are the five evidence in evolution. When he asks you in the test, he's not going to bring the questions in this form like evidence of evolution. Give me one evidence. No, he is going to give you choices like multiple choice, and if you find an evidence, you will say, oh, this, I will take this as evidence of evolution. I will take this molecular biology of the DNA as evidence in this scenario. So he's going to give you scenarios, and he will ask you which evidence you are going to take to say that this is approved or not. In order to connect the examples of evolutions in our life, like real life. So if, for example, Darwin Finches, he studied the beak of the bird, and he saw in the island of Galapagos, he began to match how the beak of the bird of the same species have been developed in a different size according to the availability of the food. So you will find the beak is different size from the same species during the years. It began to show that it's longer, it's thinner, it's the availability of the food is different, so the beak is different. So this is environmental change here. Another example of this is the peppered moth. The color change according to pollution. So there is a revolution, industrial revolution. We have the pollution changed the color moth. Now it's different color. It's peppered moth now. So antibiotic resistance bacteria mutate in order to survive antibiotics. That's sometimes the doctor tells you don't take the course of the antibiotic until the end. Why? Because if you take a dose that is lower than the recommended dose, what happens? The bacteria is going to evolve and is going to change and mutate itself and become resistant to this antibiotic. That's why we need you to take the whole dosage in order to be bactericidal, so give the bacteria no chance to mutate and survive. And there are lots of bacteria are resistant. That's why we keep in the lab introducing new antibiotics to survive to act on a bactericidal on these bacteria. So now why we are studying this, why we are studying evolution, and why it's important to know it before you take your high school diploma and proceed. Because first of all, it gives me explanation, scientific explanation about the unity and diversity between species. And also it helps the scientist. I assume uh, if you want to choose a major in science and biology, and probably you are going to begin understanding disease. You are going to understand mutation. You are going to develop new medicine, and you are going to protect endangered species. You are going to work on the DNA. You are going to work on mutation. You are going to work on developing new medicine. Those who are working on cancer medicine, they are working on the DNA, and they are uh, developing new medicine for every disease. So you need to know how the DNA changes everything. And also it shows you how we are all connected. So if you are studying any branch of medicine, you are connected to the others because it's you are studying the basics of biology. So this part, I want you to spend some time and have a paper and pen, and I want you to make a review about what is evolution, unity and diversity. So if you look at the first in the slide here on the left side, you see the how the beak of each bird during the years. This is not a one time. So how the finches that Darwin have been studying, how they change from the same ancestor according to food availability. So look at this giraffe, how it changed during the year. So now her neck is longer. Why? It's environmental selection here. She needs to reach higher for higher food source. And if you see here on the other pictures, so see how the reptiles are coming from the original ancestor. And now we have mammals and turtles and lizard snakes and crocodiles and birds. And they are the same ancestor, but evolution happened. And this was evidence of evolution. And I want you, how does natural selection work? And as we said, natural selection, like selection of food, weather, all the environment change that may change the and make mutations. Name two types of evidence for evolution. As we said, I don't want to answer these questions. I want you to answer in your paper first before you hear the answer. As we said, we have lots of evidence from the fossil fuels, and we have all the DNA and lab biology studies and all this one. Why do scientists say all life is real? Why do scientists say that? So I want you to answer according, connect everything to real life, connect things that are having unity and connect things that have evolution and answer these questions. So, what I want you to take away from this unit, I want you to know the scientific explanation for the unity and diversity. I want you to gather evidence supports your evolutionary theory. I want you to understand why evolution is important and how it helps us to appreciate natural world and our place in it. Explore virtual fossil dig. There's lots of online simulation for the evolution, and compare skeletons for if you are eating chickens, for example, see the uh, analyze all the bone structure of chicken. If you are having a chicken with bones like chicken thigh, for example, compare the skeleton with other skeletons and see the with the unity and the diversity between this. And I want you to mention the means of homogeneous, which look alike, heterogeneous is different, and vestigial, which is not in use anymore. And thank you for your staying with us. Send me an email if you want any explanation on the top of this one.